No matter the park, there's always a star attraction or coaster, and most of the time, you'd think that would be your number one at the park, right? Well, sometimes that's not the case. So today, we will look at what is my favorite or number one coaster at every park I've visited. Before we get started, keep in mind, everyone is allowed to have their own opinions on what is and isn't their favorite, so we may have differing picks, and that's perfectly fine. Also keep in mind, some of these parks have added new rides that could be a number one since the last time I visited, and I will not be doing these in any particular order. And as always, if you can give this video a like and subscribe, that'd be awesome. It helps fight the YouTube algorithm. First off, the honorable mentions. These are parks with only one, or at the time I visited, only one coaster. Universal Studios Hollywood, Revenge of the Mummy. When I visited in 2014, they were just beginning to build the wizarding world of Harry Potter. That being said, I've been on the Flying Unicorn at Islands of Adventure, so Mummy would have won out either way. Pacific Pier, the West Coaster, the only boardwalk park I visited, and it's got a great family coaster. Family Kingdom in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, the Swamp Fox. Okay, I know there's another coaster there called Twist and Shout, but when I went in like 2010, it didn't exist. And with that being a wild mouse, I'd still take a coaster with buzz bars and airtime as the best any day. The Pavilion Park at Broadway at the Beach, the Myrtle Turtle. It's an SPF visa. I don't really have to say more, and it's the only one there. Gardens Williamsburg, Verbolten. Okay, before I get scolded by the coaster community, I've only visited Busch Gardens once, and it was during the Christmastown event in January of 2016, and this was the only coaster running. I don't know when I will get back to this park, but when I do, I can guarantee that this will not be in the top spot. Until then, it stays. Now on to the main list. Disney California Adventure, California Screamin, or as it's now called, the Incredicoaster. I had one day to experience both Disney California Adventure and Disneyland on my one and only visit in 2014, so I had to make the most of what I could get on that day. That being said, the ride was a station wait, and we hit it early in the day. The launches are great, the loops got some positives, and it's a long ride. For a Disney thrill ride, it hits all the marks. I also don't remember the over-the-shoulder restraints being too much of a bother either. Disneyland Park, the Matterhorn bobsleds. As I mentioned earlier, I had one day for both of the Disneyland resort parks, and the original Disney Mountain was one I was not going to miss. I got one of those coaster rides you can't forget. It was thrilling and fun, full of airtime. The twists and turns of the darkened mountain, popping out to see fireworks going off over Sleeping Beauty Castle. I managed to get a ride on both sides, and they were a walk-on. For the record, Space Mountain was closed for repairs, so next time, this might be number 2. Disney's Animal Kingdom, Expedition Everest. Okay, let's all agree, the Disney parks almost become no contests with picking the best. Even when Primeval Whirl existed, Everest is the best, hands down. The forward and backward sections, the backwards helix in the dark, the steep drop flying out of the mountain. It's proof when Disney tries to do a big thrill, they can pull it off. Disney's Hollywood Studios, or Disney MGM Studios if you still call it that. Rock and roller coaster starring Aerosmith. Slinky may have more airtime, but this thing just hauls through the spaghetti bowl layout with its 3 inversions, great theming, and that awesome Aerosmith soundtrack. Those things combine and make one rockin' ride. Magic Kingdom, Space Mountain. The GOAT of Walt Disney World. This ride is in my absolute must-rides every time I visit and one of my all-time favorites. It's not the biggest, fastest, or longest ride, but that pitch black space theming, the blue Energizer tunnel, the music in the ride and queue, the pops of ejector around every turn that you can't see. It's the best mountain Disney has ever made and the best ride at the Magic Kingdom. Period. Universal's Islands of Adventure, the Incredible Hulk roller coaster. Okay, first off, I haven't been to Universal Orlando outside of City Walk since 2014, so we're talking OG track and terrains. So Velocicoaster didn't exist, and everyone I know has told me that it will be my favorite. So enough on that, and back to the one I've ridden. Hulk is an awesome B&M sit-down. The launch into the zero-G roll, the massive loop and cobra roll over the lagoon, the twisting and flipping track around in the back. It's everything you want in an intense looper. Universal Studios Florida, Revenge of the Mummy. Universal Studios Florida's first real big coaster brought the thrills and theming to an all-new level when it opened in 2004. The amazing dark ride portions, the backwards drop, the launch into a twisted mess of turns and drops, and that fake finale with the fire ceiling over your head, hands down is one of the best of all time. Fun Spot Kissimmee, mind blower. People think this is rough. Didn't think it was that bad, but I grew up with Predator at Darien Lake, so most rough coasters don't feel as bad to me. And while definitely not the smoothest, it delivers a ride filled with ejector airtime in all directions. Mix that in with the zero-G roll, it's a great ride for what this park is, and a fun ride that you can hit a few times. SeaWorld Orlando, Mako. I love airtime, speed, and hypercoasters, so it's no surprise that this won out at this park. B&M perfected the hypercoaster. This thing has plenty of floater airtime through its camelback hills. The ending is short and on the weaker end, but it's amazing to watch with its low to the water twists and turns. Six Flags Magic Mountain, X2. The coaster that bankrupted aerodynamics, the world's first fourth dimension roller coaster, and the only one in North America. It's an absolute legend. The insanity of this 200-foot monster dropping you face first toward the ground, flinging you in different directions. On my one and only visit to Magic Mountain in 2014, this was the only ride I got a re-ride on. And all the hype about it, if you never rode it, it's real. Six Flags Darien Lake, Viper. My home Six Flags park has a solid collection of coasters, and I continually go back and forth on thinking which one is number one, between this and Ride of Steel. However, there's something about Viper that gives it the edge. Smooth as can be for an aero, great inversions, fun layout, and awesome ops. It's the best of a classic breed of coaster. Carowinds Fury 325. The biggest and fastest giga coaster in the world. The reason I drove 10 hours to visit this place in 2015. While it isn't my favorite giga as of the time of this recording, I can't deny this thing delivers on all the marks. Insane floater and speed. Head choppers on the tunnel and the helix under the first turn. Tons of laterals. It's the perfection of gigas. And I'm due for a rewrite. It's been 8 years, so maybe after a refresher, I'll come to think of this as the best giga. Until then. Canada's Wonderland, Leviathan. The original B&M Giga will always be one of my favorites. It has airtime and speed, two of my favorite things for a coaster. Massive freefall drop. Ejector on both of the low speed hills, including some lateral on the one that leads into the turnaround, which I swear, because it's so oddly banked, they toyed with making this an inversion. It's almost inverted on this turn. The two massive camelbacks with floater hills. Ugh, just talking about this makes me want to ride it. Knott's Berry Farm, Accelerator. I've got one visit to Knott's back in 2014. Ghost Rider was still using PTC trains and was rough, so take that into account. I also kept going back and forth with this and Silver Bullet since it's the more complete ride, but in the end, Accelerator won and was the one I wanted to ride the most and rode the most. While short, it has that epic get in, watch this kind of launch that absolutely throws you into the seat. The view of Buena Park at the top of the top hat and the blazing speed through the overbanks. It's a short but great ride. Cedar Point, Maverick. I had to go back and look at my park rankings to verify this. While I haven't been on it since 2016 and I wasn't a huge fan of this at first, it's grown on me. The 95-degree first drop. The speed of the second launch tunnel to that bank turnaround over the water, the ejector on the airtime hills, the lateral and whippy twists, and the inversions. This is just an awesome ride. Kings Island, the beast. Kings Island is one of those parks where it's tough just to pick a favorite because it could be any one of the following: Diamondback, Banshee, Orion, or Mystic Timbers. They all run equally great every time I visited, and that includes the one I picked as my favorite, the Beast, the longest wooden roller coaster in the world. It's in a setting that's unmatched, secluded, alone in the woods. It's you and the Beast, twisting and turning through its terrain layout, 2 lifts, massive double helix. Oh, and add that night ride factor where you can't see anything. Prior to Cedar Fair's additions, this is the beast that got you to drive to Cincinnati. King's Dominion, Intimidator 305. I have one visit to King's Dominion from the summer of 2016, and this was the only ride that I got a re-ride. Well, Volcano would have, but no one wanted to wait for it. This thing combines two of my favorites from Cedar Point, Millennium Force's massive drop in speed with Maverick's low to the ground, whippy ejector. It's definitely an intense thrill and not for everyone, and one coaster I can't wait for some re-rides to see if it's as low of a giga as I think it is. Dorney Park, Steel Force. I went back and forth with this and Hydra. In the end, airtime won out. While people say it's forceless and has little to no airtime, I got a surprising amount on my 3 to 6 rides on my 2021 visit. While definitely not the strongest airtime, it had plenty of it with its speed. It's got what you want in a hyper. You can't ask for more. Knoebels, Phoenix. Okay, while I disagree with the Golden Ticket Awards for thinking it's the best wooden coaster in the world, it's definitely up there, just not number one. This old school PTC with buzz bars was made for one thing, airtime, and it delivers just that throughout its layout, especially the smaller hills and the double down. This ride is worth the drive to Knoebels just to ride it. Niagara Amusement Park, or Fantasy Island, the Silver Comet. The only original coaster still at the park. The Comet delivers a ride with pops of airtime, crazy throw you into the person next to you laterals. Couple that with a brace yourself brake run, an all around good ride. I haven't been on this since, well, let's just say too long. I can't wait for the day when I can get back on the first wooden roller coaster I ever rode. Waldameer, Ravine Flyer 2. I've only been to this place once in 2012, and this was by far the best ride in the park. A gravity group Woody that's got crazy speed and plenty of laterals. A unique setting as it crosses over the road and leaves the park. I hope to get back here sometime this summer of 2022 and have a renewed view on this coaster and park. Hershey Park, Storm Runner. Get ready to experience vertical horsepower. Hershey might have one of the most balanced coaster lineups of all time, and like Kings Island, I can see people swapping this out with the likes of Fahrenheit, Candemonium, and hell, even Skyrush, if it didn't crush your thighs, or if you're into that sort of thing. Storm Runner's so different than other accelerators, starting with the top hat that sends you in a totally different direction, the high off the ground inversions, speed, and unique layout. While I haven't been on this thing since 2012, it was closed during my 2020 visit. The ride just gave me such a rush that I cannot wait to go back and re-ride it. And that's going to do it for the best coaster at every park I've visited. How's your list compare? Do you agree or disagree? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the parks.